Welcome to the Pride of Detroit PODcast, prideofdetroit.com, Pride of Detroit on Twitter, Pride of Detroit on Facebook, twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit. We should go a lot sooner in these intros of mine. I apologize right off the top, not the head. You can tell I am being the adequate host, Chris Perfett, at Chris Perfett on Twitter. My brain is very skagged out today. So as always, I will be like the least man here and looking to my co-host to do a lot of the heavy liftings. That shouldn't dissuade you because they do a lot of good work here. We'll get to them in a second. Download the PODcast. Not Twitch.
Wherever.
Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever you get podcasts. I got woken up by a butt dial at 5 a.m. and I did not go back to sleep. And the waffles I made are causing me to trip a little bit, and I don't know why. So anyway, let's get to a man who is annoying me a lot right now. Jeremy Reisman, the fearless leader at Detroit Online. If you are watching live on Twitch or catching the replay on Twitch or YouTube, YouTube as he calls it, Jeremy is annoying me because he just got a new jersey in the mail, and his logic for it is very tortured. So hello, Jeremy, and can you explain to the people what you are wearing that is partially obscured by your green screen?
Yeah, this is my new jersey that I ordered on like February 16th, 17th. I don't know, whatever night of the Super Bowl was right after it finished. It's my Matthew Stafford Super Bowl patched jersey. My first jersey I've ever owned by a non-Detroit Lion. And yeah, like I know this is going to get a reaction. It's not why I got it. I'm not trying to be provocative and get a reaction out of people. I legitimately wanted a Matthew Stafford jersey, but I want to tell people like this is also a peace offering. Like if you're a Matthew Stafford fan, you got a Matthew Stafford jersey. Awesome. If you're like, hey, move on from Matthew Stafford, you jerk. Well, as is canon, as everyone that has followed Pride of Detroit or this podcast or the site or me, I have a jersey curse. Every player that I have gotten has either gotten injured or just fallen completely off the map. You can go like Delmas got injured. I had a thing with linebackers. So DeAndre Levy quit like 6 months after I got his jersey. I got a Jared Davis jersey gifted to me, which I can actually wear again now, I guess. He's got the same number. Wasn't my choice for the record, and goes even further back than that. And so if I have cursed Matthew Stafford, then guess what, Detroit Lions fans? Your second first round pick, or maybe it'll be the first round pick next year. If he's that cursed, I just improved the Lions draft pick next year. So you're welcome.
Jeremy says he's not looking for reaction. To react to his needless provocation, of which he spent way too much time explaining it, we go to our expert, Ryan Matthews, at Ryan_POD. Ryan, what is your comment here?
The first non-Lions jersey that I owned was a 2X Dante Culpepper home jersey that I purchased when I was in middle school. So it almost went down to my knees, but I somehow convinced my dad that, yeah, that would be practical for me to wear in middle school. I tucked it into my shorts is what I would actually do. So
that's the move. That's the move.
I had a sense of fashion that was far beyond 2005. So let's just leave it at that. But
I think that was a very 2000. That's a very 2005 statement. That is the year of Jinko jeans and everything. So I mean,
everything was baggy, right?
Yeah. I think we were all looking for extreme comfort.
I think that's what this podcast is here for, to be extremely baggy
and comforting.
The Pride of Detroit PODcast, the Jinko jeans of podcasts.
I can hear the wallet chain rattling around right now.
Rattling around and the reviews coming in being like, these guys BS too much. Let's start. We have a big topic coming up here on this show today. We have to talk about the biggest questions facing the Detroit Lions. We've all brought something as we stay here waiting for something to happen in this offseason, because Jeremy, OTAs are down the pike here.
Yeah.
Which means it's all about practice, man.
They technically start on Tuesday. It's a session of 10 practices, and the reason why it's a big deal is it's more like football. A lot of what they've been doing with their off-season activities have just been individual drills. This is the first time everyone is together and doing football-like stuff. They still don't have shoulder pads on. They still aren't fully dressed in all that sort of stuff, but it's going to resemble football, and more importantly, rookies, veterans are all together, and the media will get a look at one of those practices per week. So we'll get 3 sessions unless they cancel the last week of OTAs, which they did last year, and it's something that more teams are doing. So yeah, it's going to be an opportunity to see the Lions in their most 2022 Lions-like form that we have so far, and that's, in an offseason in which there's probably not too much going to happen in the next 2.5 months. That's relatively exciting.
Yeah, and it's not all bad news, right? Because at least the Lions aren't one of those teams that has a a star player that is voluntarily skipping OTAs, like a Deebo Samuel, who
Sure.
apparently might have been a Lion if Brad Holmes had anteed up. But like, I think the thing that I'm most excited about for OTAs, though, like players that I'll be paying attention to. Jeremy, do you think there's even an outside shot that Jeff Okudah might be on the field for OTAs?
I think it depends on what your definition of on the field is, because as I'm sure a lot of people saw last week, he was on the field, according to photos, but of course photos don't tell you how much movement is happening and how much he's participating in. It seemed like a lot of the catches that he was making in those photos was kind of from a stationary stance. So do I think there's a chance like he's close to a full participant? I don't think so, but I think he'll probably be out there just for camaraderie's sake. It's a big event for the team getting together and kind of getting in that mode of working side by side and chemistry and getting to know the playbook and all that. So I think he'll be out there, but it's definitely a huge question, and maybe one of my biggest questions too.
I think it's OTAs is a little fascinating because we do have some workout warriors on the Lions, partly because I think Penei Sewell and Jamal Williams are good for like 1 or 2 like insane moments from practice where they're just going way too hard for very different reasons for both of them. Jamal Williams definitely a lot more kind of like in your face, and either way, it's going to make for good bait that we might not get to see it, but it will definitely show up probably on Hard Knocks at some point, which is coming down the pike soon. That'll give us something for the offseason. I am very interested, though, with a lot of the wide receivers. Because, again, workout warrior and Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think there's some big questions about what he's going to do in year 2, what he's going to look like. And I know we've got a question in the mailbag coming up about Amon-Ra St. Brown, so I'll save more for that. But you guys mentioned Jeff Okudah. This is when J-Mo wants to be here. This is when Jamison Williams wants to be. He wants to be back, ready for, training. I don't know how much we'll really see of him here, but he's posing. He's there's a new meme flying around about J-Mo got the blank, and I don't know. The point is great that we went from a very shallow wide receiver room at the start of last year to a very deep one this year, and I'm just fascinated to see how that competition is going to play out. I know it's kind of staid to say you want to see a wide receiver competition, but this room is deep, Ryan. There's a lot here.
Yeah. There's a lot to be interested in the wide receiver room. I think the new faces, especially DJ Shark, I think that'll be an interesting
first look.
First look and seeing him. He seems to be a guy, like if you're following DJ Shark on Instagram, like he seems to be a guy who completely embodies what this coaching staff wants, because that guy is always posting about football. Like it might not be Lions related. It might be something that's related to his time at Louisiana State, but he's always just like, chumming it up about, football, this, football, that. The guy seems like he's super invested. I'm as far as the wide receiver room goes, I think I'm most interested to see the new faces. I mean, J-Mo probably, Jeremy, in a similar situation to Jeff Okudah. Like, he'll be there, but he won't be doing anything.
Yeah, and I think there's almost no chance he's doing anything. Like, we saw him, he was there at rookie minicamp. He's trying to get back for training camp proper in late July, August.
But he's there with a clipboard in hand, right?
Exactly.
He's there learning install and all that stuff. So
and just to go back to Chark for a second, he's also coming off an injury, right? Like he's going to be chomping at the bit to be out there. We have to see what he looks like now. When we last talked to him, it sounded like he was close to 100%. But I think just like the whole injury stuff too, like that, I want to see where Romeo Okwara is at. Is he going to be there? Is he going to show up maybe later for mandatory minicamp a couple weeks down the pike? Jerry Jacobs said a couple weeks ago on Twitter, I'm going to be back sooner than you think. Is it possible he's back from an ACL right now? I mean, he got injured, early December? Seems like it's probably a little early for that, but not completely out of the question. So yeah, I think just getting an update on some of these injuries. James Mitchell, a guy who basically said on draft night that he seemed like he was ready to go, but didn't do anything at rookie minicamp. Are they going to give him his first taste here, or wait a couple weeks and maybe just save him for training camp? Those to me, like in terms of the players I'm paying attention to, it's kind of just like the injury guys. I want to see where they're at in the rehab, because that, I mean, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but that's also one of the biggest questions facing this entire team this year is where they are in terms of some major injuries they suffered last year.
I'm going to say Josh Pascal, I think, had an injury as well last year as well, coming out of college.
He did play at rookie minicamp, so I think
he's probably farther along than,
for sure.
Yeah. So it's fascinating. How much of it, like, why do you think that final week gets canceled? That's very fascinating to me. Is that just kind of like just a scrimp? The teams don't want to like put the stuff in front of the media. I get that. They treat it like state secrets.
I don't think it's that. I think.
Do you think it was COVID last year, just like kind of COVID concerns and everything? Or?
I think it's more honestly of a reward to the players. Like if they're probably just tell like, you guys work your ass off for this and mandatory minicamp in the mid. Like we'll get rid of that last week.
Yeah, it just so happens to be that's the week that media can show up.
No. We get one per week.
Oh, one per week. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll get one this week. We'll get one next week. We'll get 3 during mandatory minicamp week, and then there's that last week where they typically cancel. And so we'll miss out on one of those.
I'm really curious to see what they throw on Hard Knocks from all this too. Like there's going to be plenty of Jamal Williams just doing something and getting someone's face.
That's actually kind of interesting because I don't know when Hard Knocks officially shows up. I don't know if they do OTA stuff. I think they usually just...
Do they not?
I think they mostly just do training camp stuff, but I know they also like to get in the building early so that they can start developing some storylines. So.
Right. It's going to take some time on editing. Then Hard Knocks itself starts in July, I think.
August. Yeah, they start the first episode airs after training camp has already gone by. It's mostly just about training camp, but like I said, like they need to.
They probably need some stock footage as well too,
exactly.
for like B-roll and everything too. Like, and this stuff takes time on editing. Like I'm always amazed at how fast Hard Knocks kind of turns everything around, just given kind of the workflow and editing and everything else. So I'm imagining they're going to want some like stuff they can pass off as like training camp, but was filmed at OTAs.
Yeah, to bring it back to OTAs, I think one of the things that I'm most interested in hearing about is like how involved Ben Johnson is.
Yes.
Not
especially with Dan Campbell taking over play calling in the middle of last year too. Like, is that going to continue, or is how much gets handed off to Ben Johnson? But yeah, continue, Ryan.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, there's no way you're going to be able to glean whether or not Campbell's calling plays or Ben Johnson's calling plays, but I think that you can get an idea of just how involved he is in the process, and I think that would be something to keep an eye on as far as coaching staff goes, because I mean, for the most part, a lot of it's the same faces, some of them in new places, like with Kelvin Shepard, moving to the inside linebacker role. But I think that'll just be something that I'll be tuned into, is like what's Ben Johnson doing out there? Like how involved is he? Like what's he going on? What is he stirring the pot with?
And what
since in the past we've seen this Lions coaching staff very hands-on with a lot of players.
Sure. Very hands-on. Yeah. And I think also the question is we've heard kind of tidbits throughout the entire offseason about the offense looking a lot different, right? Amon-Ra says the verbiage is completely different. There's very little carryover from last year. So, I mean, I don't know how much the Lions are going to show us publicly. I'm sure they're going to keep things pretty vanilla, and I'm sure they're also very early in the install phase. Like they're not that deep into the playbook yet, but are we going to see more up tempo like Dan Campbell talked about? Are we going to see the wide receivers move around from the X receiver to the wide receiver to the slot to the backfield? How much of that are we all going to see kind of mixing and matching? Is definitely, again, a big thing on the docket. And same thing on the defensive side of the ball, right? Like we're more 4 down front. So what does that mean for this linebacking core? Who's going to be playing inside linebacker? Who's going to be playing in the edge? Who's going to be Is Josh Pascal gonna slide in defensive tackle on certain downs, certain packages? Who's gonna be the starting safety right away? Like there's so much to that, and that to me, honestly, that might be the biggest takeaway I typically get from OTAs is just where the depth chart is right now. And that doesn't obviously where it is in July or May, whatever month we're in. It's not going to be the same as it is in September. But right now, who is your safety next to Tracy Walker? Right now, who is it? Who do you guys think it is?
I mean,
Will Harris?
Is it Deshaun Elliott?
It might be Deshaun Elliott.
Probably Elliott.
I don't know. I agree though, Jeremy. Like it'll be interesting to see like where players are lining up. I think for me, the thing that I would be, and it's too early, right? Like OTAs are, I mean, they're too early to truly like take anything for certain from, right? But I think the one thing last year that was most concerning, right, was how bad the offense looked in training camp.
Sure.
That was the big takeaway. Like every single day, it was like, yeah, the defense looked good, but it probably was because the offense was really bad. And in OTAs, like you said though, Jeremy, like they're starting from essentially what seems like the ground up, like rebuilding everything, installing a new offense with new verbiage and stuff. So like, how far along do they seem? Like I think that's something to hey, we can mark this on the progress report and say like they're this far along. I just hope that it's not a situation where the Lions offense looks as far behind schedule as it did last year in training camp.
Yeah, it's one of those, we get this every year, right? The chicken and egg situation of, your offense is playing your defense. And it just, one's going to look good at the expense of the other sometimes.